Hiya lads! Just a quick reminder to like, comment, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Please be sure to watch it to the end, and I hope it is to your liking. Also, please be sure to check out my webcomic The Missing Ghost over on Webtoon, and the playlist I set up for the story here on my channel. Now, let's get cracking! Hiya lads, I'm Noble Clover. I'm a hobbyist voice actress, artist, and writer. As many of my closest friends and mutuals know, I've been working on a supernatural webcomic called The Missing Ghost, which I've been working on since 2022, so at least 2 years. The comic is centered around a young man called Milo McCreary who works as an embalmer in his dad's funeral home. He also happens to see ghosts, which was an ability he had been familiar with since he was only 6 years old. As an adult, Milo has to deal with a case in which a dead body was stolen from the funeral home, which also caused the body's ghost to suddenly disappear alongside with it. With some help from his spectral sidekicks, as well as the few people who accept his odd abilities, Milo now has to work out who could cause such a dreadful thing and why. So yeah, pretty interesting premise. As of right now, I only have like a few episodes up on Webtoon, as well as the odd one-shot comic there pertaining to the story, but I've actually been wanting to do a lot more outside of just working on the story and making animatics, so I thought, why not do a lore series? I mean, I've seen other YouTubers do the same thing, like Scribble Mama and Navine just making videos about the lore of their stories and their original characters, and it honestly looked pretty fun, so I thought I might just give it a try myself with this story. Also, as you can probably tell, this is inspired by other media, such as The Sixth Sense, The Others, Anya's Ghost, Corpse Bride, The Woman in Black, and Midsummer Murders. Okay, I know that one is like a police drama, but I really loved the setting of the English countryside, and I found it to be a clever contrast against all the morbid events that take place for each episode, so yeah, hence why The Missing Ghost is set in England. When thinking about how to do the first episode for this series, I thought maybe I could start with the different types of ghosts present within the story's universe, as well as typical behaviors of ghosts in general. Also, keep in mind these are based on Milo's findings, since he is one of those rare people who can see ghosts, and for most of his childhood, teen years, and early adulthood, he doesn't really meet any other people who have the same abilities as him. I do plan on presenting his notes on Webtoon in the future, but for this video, I thought I might share them with you as a little Easter egg. Oh, and since I'm bringing speedpaints back from the dead... You see what I did there? You see what I did? Huh? Yeah, you did. Yeah. I figured I could do these videos in kind of like a speed paint format, usually with panels that will be uploaded to the webcomic, as well as character references for the different characters in the story. I'm sorry, I'm just really awkward. I've never done anything like this before, so yeah, please forgive me. Anyways, let's start off with the different groups of ghosts that can be seen within the story itself. So first up, we have wanderers. These are ghosts that typically wander around a specific area, for example, a town, a forest, what have you. They tend to keep to areas measuring 10 kilometers squared, but can often wander further beyond, albeit not too much. It just depends on how familiar they are with the area, as well as the size of the area itself. They can be seen indoors or outdoors, and can cover a decent amount of ground. Next up, we have lurkers. These are ghosts who linger or lurk around someone, typically a family member or friend. Sometimes they can even linger around someone who they feel might have directly or indirectly contributed to their death. but for the most part, lurkers linger around people that they feel secure around. One example of a lurker in the main story is Kayla Edwards. She was Milo's friend from secondary school, and she lost her life in a horrific fire at the age of 19. Now, she follows him wherever he goes. Another group of ghosts to look at are dwellers. These are ghosts who are tied to one small area and don't cover as much ground as wanderers. The kind of haunting spots they frequent around may include the house they grew up in or the building where they died. So a lot of these haunting spots are usually buildings or landmarks, places that have special meaning to them or that they feel very attached to. It also depends on whether they were buried in said place as well, so keep that in mind as well. There are also a type of dwellers known as guardian dwellers who would act as de facto leaders of a group of ghosts haunting one specific place. For example, a hospital or a school. One example of a guardian dweller in the story is Simon Fairbairn. He was a children's psychologist who worked with Milo for only a few weeks before he unexpectedly died. And next up we have hiders. These are ghosts who are painfully shy and don't like revealing themselves to others, even from living people who can see ghosts. It's usually because that they suffer gruesome injuries that make them feel self-conscious about themselves, or because they just don't want to face the fact that they are dead. So they tend to isolate themselves as a trauma response to their death. Also, they differ from dweller ghosts because dweller ghosts tend to be a little bit more social, but they tend to only hunt just one small area, whereas hider ghosts are just very, very self-isolating. And finally, we have phantoms. These are dangerous ghosts who cause havoc due to distress, anger, or trauma relating to their death. Their behavior can consist of either throwing stuff or whispering threats, to name a few, just like typical stuff that you would see in a horror movie featuring ghosts. When they aren't causing havoc, they can also be seen pacing or muttering to themselves. Now, one thing to note about phantoms is that they can originate as any of the type of ghosts I had just mentioned, and can carry on the same characteristics as their original forms. For instance, a phantom can be seen wandering an area or hiding in various places. What it takes for a ghost to become a phantom is when they experience overwhelming negative emotions and responses to being dead, either gradually or immediately. Like, for instance, a ghost watching their loved ones moving on without them, causing them to experience deep sadness, or the ghost would start remembering very unpleasant memories from the time of their death. Now, appeasing them can work in getting them to calm down, but it can take a lot of work, sometimes months to years, just to make them less dangerous. There are also malicious phantoms called ghouls, and these ones would require a full expulsion as soon as possible, or, in religious terms, an exorcism. The number of steps it would take to appease phantoms usually depends on how dangerous and aggravated they are. So, as we can see, each type of ghost that I have mentioned here behaves very differently and tends to respond differently upon finding out that they are dead. They typically haunt areas based on the proximity of where they were buried or the area's significance to them. For this next and final section, I am going to talk about the common traits that all ghosts exhibit. Pretty much the physical attributes that a ghost would have in the story is similar to those that you would find in various supernatural or horror media. For instance, being transparent, phasing through walls, etc. However, in this story, I decided to add in a few extra details in relation to common behavior traits that all ghosts share. Let's start off with one trait that each ghost exhibits from the exact moment of death. When someone dies, they might become a ghost and can only be seen by a few select people. However, they don't get very far from their resting place or their dead body for a few weeks to at least 2 months, Therefore, they are tethered to where they currently rest. Every few months, however, their roaming distance exponentially increases until they can cover more ground or just choose to haunt a specific area further away from where they are buried. As for waking up as a ghost, it can be very different for each person who died. Some may be very confused or frightened, they might be in denial, or they can react really badly to this new state that they're in and freak out. Waking up isn't always easy, and it can also take a few days for a ghost to work out that they are dead due to post-mortem amnesia. That can be caused by a blow to the head, which affects their stream of thought in the afterlife. Also, it's important to note that not every person who dies becomes a ghost. Usually, if someone dies an unexpectedly sudden death, they're very likely to find themselves to become ghosts as a result. Whereas, on the other hand, people who die peaceful deaths or who are aware that they are going to die, they don't come back at all, and it's unknown as to what happened to their soul specifically, but it can be assumed that they've just moved on to somewhere else, like, say, heaven, limbo, who knows. As well as that, photographs that contain smudged, cloudy areas may indicate that a ghost was present when the picture was taken. However, it wouldn't be really noticeable to the untrained eye, so folks would have to squint really hard at a photo to see if these smudges appear, or if, it was just like an error in the photo developing. Another fun fact, ghosts are actually capable of moving inanimate objects like in the movies. However, the force that they exert would be very weak, and the movement of said object would be very, very slow depending on the mass of this object. However, when a ghost becomes angry or violent, they would exert greater force upon objects and can even cause damage in really extreme cases like, flying furniture and such. It's also worth noting that a ghost can look how they appeared at the moment of death. If they suffered an aneurysm and dropped dead suddenly, then they just, wouldn't display any changes to their physical form. However, if someone was stabbed, burned, or beaten to death, then the scars and bruises that they sustained at the moment of death, they'll be carried on into the afterlife, and they will also be seen wearing the same clothes that they wore at the moment of death. As well as that, if said ghost becomes a phantom based on what I said earlier, then they will appear as a warped, erratic shadow of their former selves with hollow eyes. They have this unsettling appearance, which they lose once they are appeased and revert to their original forms. Anyways, that's it for this video. I hope you've enjoyed it, because I had a real blast while making it. Please be sure to like, comment, share, and even subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Plus, as I said earlier, go read the webcomic over on Webtoon and check out the playlist that I've linked below. I've never made long-form content like this before, and I think I was probably a bit rusty while making this video, so please do feel free to offer me feedback as well. Also, you can check out my community tab for other updates regarding the missing ghost and for when the next lore episode might be coming out. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!